What's up, pals, and welcome back to The Passion Project. I'm so excited to be recording my second episode, and I'm a lot more calm this time, a lot less nervous. If you're new to me, if you don't know me, my name is Hallee Smith. I'm a full-time video content creator on TikTok, YouTube, and I guess we throw Instagram in there as well because that's becoming a video platform too. My goal with this podcast is to create a space for other multi-passionate creatives like myself to learn together, to grow together, and to just figure it all out because I'm one of those people that just feels like they never know what they want to do. That's probably everybody. You know, I think that more people than you think feel like that. So we're here to relate, we're here to build a community and grow together. So I hope that this podcast can help you to step out of your comfort zone, do that thing that scares you, follow your big dreams, and just do it. We're here together, we're here to support each other. So pals, friends, human beings, let's jump into today's episode. Being my second episode, today's topic is all about being multi-passionate. What does it mean? Who is a multi-passionate person? Are you a multi-passionate person? So first of all, what does being multi-passionate even mean? I didn't hear the term until probably 4 years ago when I was reading a book by Emily Wapnick, and she called it a multi-potentialite. So that was an even fancier term, but we're gonna call it multi-passionate here. So what does that even mean? I Googled a definition for you, don't worry. So it's an individual who excels at more than one interest and passion. Pretty self-explanatory, right? But I feel like there's so many different layers we can unpack with this. The word multi-passionate itself, we're people who can't pick just one thing. The thought of picking one thing sounds like a death sentence, at least for me. Maybe it's not as intense for you, but that's how I feel when I think about being stuck, I guess, doing one thing for my entire life. So I'll start with using myself as an example. Some of the things that I like to do. I love to hike. I love to get outdoors. I love to dance. I danced growing up and I quit in high school because I got bored of it. And then I started doing sports. So I do sports. I do dance. I like to sing, actually. I'm really shy about it, but I love to sing. I love music. I've been trying on and off to play the piano, but again, it's one of those interests that comes and goes. I think a lot of us can relate to that if you consider yourself multi-passionate because you have these bursts of inspiration. And some people think that's bad. They say you're not disciplined or you're just not committing and you're not overcoming the hard part that you have to put into committing to something. I do think that to some extent, as multi-passionate people, we can have commitment issues. I definitely have had my fair share of those. But at the end of the day, I don't think that being multi-passionate is a discipline problem. We just have lots of interests and we want to explore all of them in our lifetime because you only get one shot, right? So we are the people that are just getting out there, exploring all our interests. And if maybe that's something you feel like you want to be doing, but you're not doing it, don't be afraid. There's other people like you, and it's possible to be successful at multiple things. It's possible to be successful dipping your toe in a bunch of different areas and trying out a bunch of different interests. You don't have to undyingly commit to one thing for your entire life. I know the niche people, that's probably gonna not sit well with them, but I like to play the devil's advocate, is that the right terminology on this? Because we need a space too. Us multi-passionate people. Now, I also have this theory that everybody's secretly multi-passionate to an extent. And maybe this doesn't fully fall under the umbrella of multi-passionate, but everybody is multi-dimensional. And that's kind of, I guess, obvious, but at the same time, it's not. On social media, it's really easy to put people in categories. It's natural. It's what everybody does. You see somebody and you know them, say, for example, a singer. You know them as a singer. You don't even recognize or comprehend half the time, unless you're like a super loyal fan. But for the general public, you just think of that person as a singer. Well, maybe that person does, I don't know, a podcast. Maybe they're really good at self-development. Maybe they're really good at yoga. Maybe they also love to surf. I don't know. Most people who are super passionate in general are multi-passionate. They've just gotten to a point where they've committed to that one thing that they're going to make their outward image. And I think that seems, when I talk to people about, it's kind of hard when you're in social media and you're always seeing yourself from your own perspective. Sometimes you have to talk to people and get an external perspective on yourself. And when I talk to people, they know me for, it seems like one thing, I don't know, making videos, I guess. But to me, it feels like I'm all over the place. So that's something we have to keep in mind, is that when you look at people on social media, you have to remember that while they might look like they're showing up for one thing, they might also be doing a million different things and just keeping it to themselves. So key point there, we're all multi-dimensional at the very least. We all have many layers, and us multi-passionate people have to keep that in mind and you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to feel like you are doing something wrong by having all these interests. Sometimes you just need to have that exploration phase, which I talked about a little bit more in depth in the first episode. Another example on the topic of everybody being multi-dimensional, let's say that you love posting pictures of your kitchen and cooking, like super aesthetic videos and photographs of food. Everybody who watches your content is going to see you as somebody who is very organized, who is very clean, and they're going to assume that that's how you are with everything, unless, of course, you're showing other parts of yourself. But what if that could just be one side of you? Maybe you walk in your room, and I may or may not be describing myself here. Then maybe you walk in your room and your room is a disaster. There's stuff everywhere. And somebody who saw that might consider you to be an unorganized person. So if you see what I'm getting at here, we're hardwired to jump to conclusions about people and then put them in a box and think of them as a certain type of person. So I was talking before about social media in terms of showing up with your talents, but this could just be about people in general and who they are as a person. So if you saw my room, maybe you'd think I was a super unclean and unorganized person. My room's actually really clean right now, by the way, but it can get slightly disastrous. So if you saw that, you would consider me to be an unorganized person. However, if you saw my kitchen, maybe, I don't know, I don't do aesthetic cooking videos, but say, for example, I do aesthetic cooking videos, you would consider me to be a clean, organized, aesthetic person. So we have to try not to be so quick to jump to conclusions about people. And by doing that and having that mindset outwardly towards other people, it'll also help you internally to be able to understand that you don't have to be tied to this one thing. You can have multiple passions. That is the key here. And it starts with your mindset on other people, because we bring that internally. So we have to work on that internal point of view before we can get holistically better, we'll say. Now, I've kind of alluded at this, and I may have mentioned it in the first episode, but the next thing I want to talk about is, as much as I'm taking a stance here with this podcast for us multi-passionate creatives, and I, like I said, want to cultivate a space for us to hang out, support each other, explore our passions together, and ultimately not feel alone in the process of exploring and just doing a million different things, okay? With that being said, I'm not anti-niche. I want to have people on here actually who are really good at having a niche, or do have a very specific niche or one thing that they're undyingly passionate about. I want to hear from them because I think it's interesting. it would be interesting to hear, how did they get to that point? Did they have this exploration phase? Did they have a point in their life when they were multi-passionate about a bunch of different things? So I want to have people on here to talk more about that. But in terms of a niche, and in case anyone listening, I know I do have younger listeners, I'm going to define what niche or niche, you might have heard it called too. I don't know the right way to pronounce it. I say niche, some people say niche. Anyways, the technical definition is a specialized segment of the market for a particular kind of product or service. So it's often used in marketing. But nowadays, with social media, everything's marketing, which is great because that was my degree in college, right? So niches work. They essentially, the way I see it, a niche is a strategy. Having one is a strategy. If you are a personality, content creator, for example, you are your niche. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this on social media, but it's so true. If you are showing up for your personality, if you're at work and you're just, being yourself, and you feel like, oh, I just have to be this certain type of person, I have to show up in this certain way, drop that. Because you and who you are, given you're being your authentic self, you are your niche. You are what's unique. And it sounds cliche, but like there's no copy of you. You're the only you, right? So that sounds like the opposite of a niche, because a niche is kind of, like I said, that specialized segment of the market. So it's a group of people who all have something in common. But as a person, and this is kind of getting a little woo-woo spiritual, but it's so true, the law of attraction, like attracts like. So if you're showing up authentically as yourself, as your niche, you're gonna attract people like you. And I have seen this firsthand with myself, because I've noticed the more I start to show up as who I really am, the more I attract people who are in alignment with me, that I get along with, that I don't feel like I have to put up this wall in front of. I don't have to feel like I have to fit into a certain mold. I can just show up as myself and be who I truly am. So when it comes to the niche, again, you are your niche. If you don't have that one thing yet, that's okay. You are your niche, show up as yourself, and you will attract the people, the circumstances, the experiences that are authentic to you. So that is actually going to conclude today's episode. I just really wanted to lay the foundation with talking about what is a multi-passionate person? Who are you? How are we hanging out together? How are we showing up? Are you multi-passionate? And I think this can fit, I talked about this, I think, in the first episode too, but I just want to make it so clear that this is a space for people who are just simply passionate people. Some people don't have many interests, but if you're here, I'm assuming I'm attracting you like attracts like, as I was just talking about. I am attracting people who are similar to me mindset-wise and, personality-wise. Passionate people, many interests. Who is texting me in the middle of my podcast? If you felt like this podcast resonated with you, I hope that you follow along. And I actually created a separate email account so that you can submit your feedback, questions, anything that comes up, topics you want me to talk about, maybe personal stories or struggles that you've had as a multi-passionate person or creative. You can submit those to Hallee's Passion Project. That's Hallee, 2 L's, 2 E's, Passion Project @gmail.com. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with somebody that you think it could resonate with. Share it on social media. It would mean the world to me. And if you're really feeling kind and generous, give it a review. Hopefully 5 stars, maybe 4, I don't know, be honest, but give me a review. It'll help boost this podcast because it's new. And I want to keep creating, and I want to my mission is to reach as many people as I can and grow this community to be as big as it possibly can. Because as a person, as a multi-passionate creative, I haven't been able to find a community like this. So that's why I wanted to create one. In college, I did that with club basketball. There was no club basketball team, women's. There was men's, of course, but there wasn't a women's, so my roommate and I started one. I guess that's my thing. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe for the next episode. Thank you all so much for listening. You're all amazing. Keep following those passions, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace out, pals.